In this video, we will be making a Blender Rubik's Cube project, but in a much more improved and realistic style, in terms of lighting, materials, textures, and everything. So without much talking, let's get straight into the project. Alright, before we begin, I'd like to show you the resources we're going to be using in this project. We're going to be using this fingerprints texture. The link will be in the description. Download the 2K or 4K JPG zip folder and extract it on your computer. Then the next resource we have is the HDRI. This HDRI is linked in the description. Download the 4K EXR file. Then we're going to be using the Polygon add-on. It's a Blender add-on, the link of which is also in the description. But in this case, download the zip folder and do not extract it, because Blender only installs from zip files. I'm talking about add-ons. Add-ons are only installed from zip files. Zip folders, I mean. The next resource we have is this website. We're going to be using it to provide a random scramble to scramble the cube and make it solve itself in the animation. And the final resource we have is this resource. It's optional, but I prefer to use it because it gives us the exact color tones for the Rubik's Cube faces. I'm talking about the tiles of the cube, to be more specific. So we'll be using this website to copy exact hex codes for the exact colors in the original Rubik's Cube scheme. So alright, let's head straight into Blender. Alright guys, so here we are in Blender 4.2.1 LTS. In this tutorial I'm assuming that you're not an absolute beginner, so I'm not going to go over every single shortcut key I'm pressing, but you can still see what I'm pressing on the lower left of the screen. Click anywhere to begin. Select the camera on the lamp and hide them, and then select your cube and make a nice zoom in to the cube, and go to edit mode and press Ctrl R to add a loop cut, and then left click and right click, do the same thing horizontally and do the same thing vertically, and then go to the face select mode and then select these faces, and then invert the selection with Ctrl I and delete the faces. Go back to object mode, go to the modifier area, and let's add a mirror modifier. Enable the Y axis and the Z axis and clipping. And now we're going to add another modifier, and that's the bevel modifier. Set the amount to 0.2 and the segments to 7. And now click on this arrow and click on apply to apply the bevel modifier. What we want to do next is go to edit mode and select these three faces, and then press 1 to go to the front view. And then let's go to the wireframe mode as well. And let's extrude all these three selected faces along their normals. We want to extrude them inside a little bit. And pay attention on this face that's highlighted in white, because this will be our reference in this extrusion. Press Alt E and select the second option to extrude along normals, and then hold down your shift and slide down until this white face on the right is to about at this point, and then left click. You see this black dot, that's where we want to put it. Go back to solid mode and press I to inset, and then press B to disable the boundary, and then left click. You can just make it something like this first, and then left click, and then you can go back to wireframe mode, and once again we're going to press Alt E and select the second option, but this time we're going to hold down shift and slide gently upwards until this white face meets the outer edge of the cube and overlaps with it. Like this. Let's left click, and now let me go back to solid view, object mode, centralize the focus. And what we want to do now is go back to edit mode and let's add more loop cuts. I'm going to press Ctrl R and use the scroll wheel upwards to increase the number of segments, and then I'm going to left click and right click, and then I'm going to do the same thing horizontally and vertically on the other side. Then I'm going to enable the face select mode and select this face and zoom in on it with numpad period, and I'm going to add more loop cuts, but this time I'm going to left click and slide instead of right clicking. I'm going to slide it until it's close to the outer edge, and then I'm going to left click, and I'm going to do the same thing here, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the top face and on the right face. So let's do this quickly. Here we go, nice loop cut over here, another loop cut, decent, And finally on the right face, let's do this quickly. Over here, oops, this is a wrong loop cut. Let me undo. Yes, this is the correct one. And let's just slide this outwards. And now let's go back to object mode. What we want to do now is add a subdivision surface modifier. So let's go ahead and do that and set the levels viewport to 2 and right click and click on shade smooth. Now it's time we add some material to this cube. This cube represents only one of the 27 cubes of the Rubik's Cube. Let's click on the shading tab. And I'm going to zoom in on this cube, and then over here I'm going to use middle mouse button dragging to move the view. You can see here the pan is middle mouse button drag. So here we go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add a texture, image texture, and I'm going to put it here. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to click on open to open a texture, and then I'm going to navigate to the fingerprints folder that we just extracted, this zip folder that we extracted. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I downloaded the 2K in my case. Once you open the folder, you want to navigate to this image that says roughness.jpg, and you want to open this image, and then go to the color space and set it to non-color, and then take the color output and plug it into the roughness input, and wait for Blender to load this up. And it's loaded. All we want to do now is change the base color to black. I'm going to set this value to 0.008. And here we go, we have our material, and as you can see we have some fingerprint marks on the surface of the cube. Now these fingerprint marks may be so strong, may be so visible, we want to make them a little bit more subtle. The way we can control how visible these fingerprints are is with the following way. Go over here and then press Shift A and then add a converter, color ramp, and place this color ramp over here. And now you'll see you have two handles, the black handle, and this controls how shiny the cube is. So click on this color. This color is not the color of the cube, it's just a color that represents how shiny the cube is. The lighter the color, the less shiny the cube is going to be. I like to set this thing to a value of 0.021. And then if you click on this white handle controls how visible this fingerprint is going to be. The lighter the color, the more visible it's going to be. After experimenting multiple values, the value I found to be the best in my opinion is a 0.4. It's subtle. Over here you may feel like it's so subtle. You may feel like you want to make it more visible, but when we render the final scene, the lighting will be like hitting it directly, and it's going to be well visible. So I like to leave it at 0.4. Once you're done with that, click on this material and name it cube, and this is the base material for the cube. Go back to the layout tab, and now it's time we add individual materials to each of the tiles of the cube. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we do that, it's recommended to go over here and click on this monitor icon to temporarily hide the subdivision surface modifier. This will speed up our process in the coming step. Click over here to go to the material preview, and then go to edit mode and enable the face select mode. You can see it from here, or press 3 outside of your numpad. Let's go to the top view, and I'm going to select these 9 faces, and then I'm going to zoom in with numpad period, and then I'm going to rotate the view, zoom in more, and pan until I can see those face rings. I want to press Shift Alt and then left click to select this face ring, and while still holding Shift Alt, left click again to select this ring. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the material tab, or the material menu, and then we're going to click on the plus icon, and then we're going to click here and select the cube material, and then we're going to make a copy of this material, and then we're going to name it yellow, and we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to navigate to one of the websites I told you about, and that is the color scheme website. So let me go ahead and do that. The link of this website is in the description. What we want to do here is go over to the yellow color and then copy the hex code and just paste it over here, go to the hex tab and just paste the hex code and hit enter, and then click on assign. This will assign this color to this tile alone. Let's go to the front view and let's do the same thing here, but this time it's going to be blue and not yellow. So let me quickly do this. Let's go and search for these face rings. Alright, so here we go, Shift Alt click and then Shift Alt click. Here we go. Be careful because these face rings may be difficult to see. If you're confused, you may go to the solid view and do that. That's going to be much easier for you, but I like to do it in the material preview so that I can see the changes in action. Anyway, I'm going to click on the plus icon and then select the cube material, make a copy of the cube material, and then name this blue. Then what you want to do is you want to go to the website, copy the blue hex code, and then go back to Blender and paste the hex code here. Hit enter and then click on assign. Press 3 on your numpad to go to the right side view and do the same thing, but this time it's going to be the red color. So let's go ahead and do that quickly. Shift Alt left click, plus button, cube material, make a copy of it, name this one red, and then go to the website, copy the red hex code, and then over here just paste the red hex code in here and hit enter, and then click on assign. Now we can go back to solid view, but before I continue, never mind, go back to the solid view and go to the modifier area and re-enable the subdivision surface modifier. What we want to do now is go to the mirror modifier, click on this arrow, and then click on apply. Now we have one of the 27 cubes of the Rubik's Cube fully made, but there is a problem. Each of these three colors is repeated one more time. Normally in a Rubik's Cube, opposite the red face there is an orange face, but that's not the case. Opposite the blue face there is a green face, but again the blue is just repeated, and the same for the yellow. Opposite yellow there should be white, but it's not there. To fix this problem, it's not a big deal. What you want to do is press 0 to go to the camera view, and then press your middle mouse button once and drag very slightly and then zoom in on the cube. This will be our reference position in this step. What you want to do is you want to go to the material area and then go to edit mode here, go to wireframe mode, and then make sure to click on this red material and then click on select. First, before doing this, click away to deselect everything, and then click on the red material and then click on select, and then press B for box select, and then use your middle mouse button to click and drag to deselect this face, and then click on the plus button and then click here, put the cube material, make a copy of the material, name this one orange, and then over here go to the orange and copy its hex code and then paste the hex code over here, and then click on assign. So what we've done here is we've selected, when I clicked here and clicked on select, Blender selected everything that has the red material. This included this face and the other one here. Then we deselected this face and we left only this one over here selected, and then we applied the orange material to this face. As you can see, it looks orange right now. Again, just make sure that you're in the reference position, and let's go back to wireframe mode and let's continue quickly. The next thing I'm going to do is blue. Click on select. Before doing this, make sure that you deselect everything and then click on select, and then press B and middle mouse drag to deselect the one close to you, and then click on the plus button, select the cube material, make a copy of the cube material and name it green, and over here go and copy the green hex code and then paste the hex code over here and hit enter, and then click on assign. The last thing we want to do is we want to once again deselect everything, go to the yellow material, click on select, press B, middle mouse drag, deselect the top one. Once again click on the plus icon, select the material here and select the cube material, and then make a copy of it, name this one white. And this time you don't need the website, all you have to do is just slide all the way to the top and then click on assign. Let's go back to the material preview and let's go to object mode and let's see how the tiles look like. We have yellow on top, red, then blue, orange, green, and on the bottom we have white. This is perfect. This is exactly what we want. Alright, before we continue, I want to close Microsoft Edge so that my computer, I want to basically free up some RAM. So I'm going to close it from the task manager as well to free up some RAM because I don't want my computer to lag. Alright, so it's been closed. Let's get back to Blender, and what we want to do now is we want to apply an array modifier. So let's go ahead and do that. Click on add modifier and select array, and then set the count to 3, and then click on this arrow and click on duplicate, and then click on this arrow and once again click on duplicate. Then scroll all the way down to the very end, click on this modifier, and then set the x factor to 0 and the z factor to 1. Then go to this, scroll up until you get to this modifier and set the x factor to 0 and the y factor to 1, and we have a full Rubik's Cube. Again, scroll all the way down and then click on this arrow and click on apply. Click on this arrow again and click on apply. And for the third and last time, click on this arrow and click on apply, and your computer may freeze a bit. This happens sometimes, just be patient. And then it's applied. Now we have a full Rubik's Cube. If you go to the front view and try to rotate this cube, it does not rotate around its center, and this could be a problem later on. To fix this problem, click on Object, go to Set Origin, and click on Origin to Center of Mass Volume. This will set the origin point to the center, and now we can rotate the cube around its center. Press Alt-G to reset the location of the cube. And now there are a couple more things we need to do to fix the material of this cube. There are some problems. If you look over here, you're going to see an orange color over here, and this is actually the color of the tiles from inside, and this is not realistic because the real Rubik's Cube does not have a color other than black inside. But this one has actual colors other than black in between the cubes, in between those small cubes. To get rid of these colors, all we want to do is go to Solid View, or you can stay on the Material View if you want to. Go to Edit Mode, and then hover over this blue tile and press L. Then go over here and find the Select Linked menu, click on that, and set the delimit to Material. This will select the tile. All you want to do now is hover over each of these tiles and press L on your keyboard to select the tiles. We want to do that on all the tiles of the cube. So I'm going to press 1 and do this, then I'm going to press 3 to go to the right side, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. Then I'm going to press Ctrl 1 to go to the back side, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to also press Ctrl 3 to go to the left side, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Let me just expand the view. I'm going to press 7 to go to the top view, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Finally, press Ctrl 7 to go to the bottom view, and do the same thing. What has just happened? Okay, so the white face is already selected. How is that the case? I don't know. But anyway, if the white face is not selected already, make sure to go ahead and select it. Once you make sure that you select all the tiles, make sure to have selected all the tiles first, and then all you want to do is press Ctrl I to invert the selection. And now everything other than the tiles is selected. All you want to do now is go to the material properties, and then select the black material and click on Assign. This will assign the black material to everything other than these tiles in front of us. Okay, let's deselect everything and go back to object mode. And now we will not find any more of these colors in between the cubes. One last thing we need to edit in the material is the fingerprint texture. it looks subtle and everything, but there is a specific pattern that's repeated in all of these tiles. There's that plus or X pattern that's repeated in the exact same way, and this is unrealistic, so we need to make it randomized. To do this, we need to unwrap the Rubik's Cube. Go to the solid mode, and once again go to the modifier area and temporarily hide it. Then press 1 to go to the front view. Enable the X-ray and go to edit mode. Make sure that you're on the face select mode, and then zoom in a little bit and press B for box select, and then make sure the horizontal dotted line is about right there, and then click and drag to select the slice. Do the same thing on the bottom. Make sure you have more than one row of black dots over here that are not selected. And now press 7 to go to the top view, and then press U and select project from view. Go to the front view again, and then deselect everything, and then do the same thing but on the sides. B for box select, and then just click and drag like so. Let me just make sure that I'm not selecting something extra. Okay. So we're doing this, and then I'm going to press B once again and select here, over here, and then I'm going to press 3. Press 3 to go to the right side view, and then press U and select project from view. Deselect everything, and then while still on the right side view, press B for box select, and then once again click and drag to select this one, and then press B again, and then click and drag to select this one, and then go to the front view and press U and select project from view. Now we have completely unwrapped the tiles of the cube, and we will be able to randomize the fingerprints. Go to UV editing, and you're going to find the unwrapped vertices and faces over here. Select them all and scale them down slightly. By scaling them down, you're making the size of each tile relative to the fingerprint mark smaller, and this will make the fingerprint mark take a larger area of each tile, and this is more realistic. This is what we want. Okay? Go over here, and then I like to place it somewhere here maybe. And then what I want to do is I want to use my scroll wheel here and then select the material view, and I like to deselect everything here and then press L to select. And then what I prefer to do is I like to just grab this thing over here, because this is my favorite tile in the scene. I don't know why, but I like this tile the most, and I like to put this fingerprint in this specific way. This is totally optional, but it's my favorite fingerprint mark, and I like to put it on this tile. Go back to the layout mode, go to the modifier area and re-enable the modifier. And now we've completed the cube and its materials. Press N and scale down the cube by clicking and dragging, and then type 0.06, because that's the true dimension of a Rubik's Cube. It's not 6 meters long. That's so unrealistic. Numpad period to focus, and here we go, we have the cube. Now go to the outliner here and then double click and name this Rubik's Cube. And then hover over the cube and press M and click on New Collection and name this collection Rubik's Cube, and then hit enter and then click on Create. This will create a new collection and place this mesh into this collection. Collections in Blender are like folders that contain your objects. It's important to be organized because as your scene grows up, so does the number of objects. So let's double click here and name this collection Environment. And here we go. What we want to do now before we continue is we want to add another cube that we're going to be using to control this cube as a whole in the animation. So press Shift A and add a mesh cube, and on the cube properties here, set the size to 0.06, and then press Tab to go to edit mode. Make sure you're on the face select mode, and then press X and select the fifth option, which says only faces. then go back to object mode, and you'll see that there is there are some 12 edges that are highlighted in yellow that are selected around the Rubik's Cube, and that's actually a mesh on its own, but it doesn't have any faces. It's just a bunch of edges and vertices. Right click to cancel the movement if you've done that. And then what you want to do now is click on the Rubik's Cube itself, and then go to the outliner and hold down Control, and then click on this cube, this other cube, and then press Control P, and then select the second option, Object Keep Transform. Now deselect everything and then select the cube from the outliner, double click it, name it Cube Control, and then press M and move it to the Rubik's Cube collection. Now if you select the cube control itself and move it, the cube will move with it. If you scale it, the cube will also be scaled. If you rotate, the cube will also be rotated. And at the same time, say we give it some rotation, and if we click on the cube and press N, the cube does not have any rotation data recorded. And this is what we want, because this will be helpful in the animation. We want to make the rotation data exclusive to the rotation of the layers of the cube and not the rotation of the cube as a whole. So let me undo this rotation, and now it's time we start making the stand of the cube, the triangular stand. Before we make the stand, let's orient the cube so that it stands on one corner. So to do this, open the properties panel, make sure you're selecting the cube control, and go to the rotation and set the X value to -45 and the Y value to -35.264. Here we go. Oops. And then now you can press N to close the properties panel, and now the cube is standing on its corner. Press 1 to go to the front view, and we need to raise the cube a little bit upwards. So I'm going to press GZ and hold down Control and raise it upwards until it's on the X-axis. Then I'm going to zoom in, and then we're going to raise it a little bit more so that it's in the middle of this grid. I'm going to press GZ 0.0003. Nope. Actually 0.003, not 000. Interesting. Let me try pressing GZ and holding down Shift and then sliding up a little bit. Yeah, I think this is good enough. Something like this should do. Then you can left click. You want to raise it so that it's above the X-axis by one small grid and a half, like so. And then what we want to do next is actually add our stand. So I'm going to click on this cube to hide it. I'm going to click on it to select it first, and then I'm going to hide the cube, and then we have this frame of a cube, this outline of the cube only visible to us. Let's press Shift A and add a mesh plane, and then press Tab to go to edit mode and press M to merge and select at center, and now we have a single vertex in the center of the grid. This will be the building block for the Rubik's Cube stand. Make sure you're on object mode, and then press G, B, and then move your cursor until you find a circle with an X. Left click once, and then move until you find a triangle on this edge, and then left click. This will snap the vertex to the midpoint of this edge. Now go to edit mode, and then go to vertex select mode, and then click here at select. Click and drag to select this vertex, and then extrude it like this maybe, and then press GB, and then once you see the square over the vertex, left click once, and then move until you see this triangle, which is the midpoint of the edge, and then left click. Rotate your view and do the same thing one more time, like this, GB. Once you're done with that, hold down Shift and select this vertex as well, and then press F to create an edge. Now go to the top view, enable the edge select mode from up there, and then select all the edges, and then press E to extrude and hit enter right away without moving anything. Or if this confuses you, let me undo. To make it easier to understand, just press E and then right click once, and then scale up a little bit to something like this. I think this is good enough. And then left click and go back to the face select mode, and then select all the faces, and then go to the front view. And we want to extrude this downwards. Left click, and now let's zoom in a little bit. Zoom in, zoom in. We want to make sure that it's it's pretty close to the x-axis. I'm gonna grab it on the on the z-axis, GZ, and then I'm gonna slide it a little bit more slightly, and then I'm gonna left click at this point. Alright, now we have, it's almost complete. This stand is almost complete. All what's left is to scale something like this, and now we have sort of like a stand. You can scale it a bit more like so, and it's a stand. But before doing this, I like to add the text first, the metallic text that says Rubik's Cube. I like to add it first. So let's go back to object mode, and let's go click on object, show, hide, and show hidden objects to unhide the cube. The reason I'm not pressing Alt H to unhide the cube is because this shortcut is for some reason not working on Blender 4.2.1, so I have to go and do it the long way without the shortcut. So what we want to do is go back to the material preview, and what we want to do here is I like to position my view so that we're facing the yellow, red, and green faces, and then I like to press Ctrl Alt Numpad 0 to put the camera roughly at this point. Then what we want to do is we want to click on this camera and we want to just scale it down. If you can't see the camera, make sure to make it visible from the outliner by clicking on this eye. Click on the camera. Actually, I remember to have hid this camera in the beginning of the video, but for some reason it's visible already. Yeah, we just clicked here and we unhid all objects. That's why it's visible. Anyway, so select the camera and scale it down a bit more until its size is a bit reasonable. And then what we want to do is we want to once again click on the cube and then hide it. And then what we want to do is we want to press Shift A and add a text. The text is going to be placed over here. Let's rotate our view and let's go to edit mode and type the text we want to type. Simply go to edit mode, and then you can use backspace and then write what you want to write. I'm going to write Rubik's, and once you're done with writing, just go back to object mode, and you have your text. What we want to do now is we want to go to the camera view and just scale down this text until it's about this size. And once it's scaled like this, go to object and then set origin and go and select the final option here to set the origin to center of mass, and then press Alt G to centralize it in the center of the grid. What we want to do now is press RZ 180 and then RX 9, actually no, negative 90, and then let's go to the top view, and we want to make this text that's highlighted in yellow be parallel to this side over here. To do this, press RZ and then type negative 30. This will make it parallel to this side over here. Alright, once it's parallel to this side, press G and then press Z twice on your keyboard, and then you can move this outside like so. And then go to the text menu and go to geometry, and let's add some extrude to the text. Increase it until it's 0.05 like so. This is a good extrusion value. It's my favorite extrusion value. Go to the camera view and you can now scale this until it's more of a reasonable size. You can go back to the top view and wireframe mode, but let's scale this down a bit more first to something like this. And then let's go to the wireframe mode, and we want to just grab this and then press the Z key twice on the keyboard, and then just slide it until it meets the edge of this stand. G, Z, Z, and just hold down Shift to slow down and just leave it over here. And here we go back to solid mode. We have this over here. I'm gonna press G and then Z once, and then I'm gonna slide this upwards, and we have this text over here. Under the geometry area here, go to the bevel and click on this right arrow once to add some bevel. Then go to the offset and add some offset. Add a 0.03 may be good enough. You may go for 0.04 if you want to. This may also be good. I mean, that's totally up to you. You can go for 0.04 or 0.03, totally up to you. I'll leave it as 0.03. And then what we want to do is we want to click on the stand and then press tab to go to edit mode, and then we want to go to the camera view. And then let's scale this outwards so that it looks like an actual stand. And left click, and now the text has went outside of this stand. Go back to object mode, select the text, and then press G and then Z twice, and then move it outside. And then come over here and then press R and then X twice and rotate it this way until it's roughly parallel, and then press G and then Z twice and move it inside until you see this dark shadow over here, this dark line. Now if you look at the end of this line, it's a little bit thicker than at the if you look at the beginning here, it's a little bit thicker than at the end here. At the end it's thin, and at the beginning it's thick. We want to make it so that this line is, we want to make sure that this shadow is uniform in thickness throughout the text. To do this, press R and then X twice, and then hold down Shift, and you can just keep tweaking around with the rotation until you achieve an almost parallel shadow line, like so. Once you achieve it, you can just left click. Now it's almost perfectly parallel. Once it's almost perfectly parallel, press G and then Z twice, and then grab it outside until this shadow almost fully disappears, and then left click, and you have the text over here. You can scale it a bit more upwards. Let's go back here. You'll find some more shadow appearing, and that's okay. Let's just press G and then X twice to move this to the side a little bit. I think this looks good enough. What we want to do is we want to come over here, and as you can see, this shadow has reappeared a little bit more. So press G and then Z twice, and then move outside until it's almost fully disappeared. I think this is good enough. If you want, you can reduce the extrude a little bit, but that's totally up to you. I'll just leave it as it was already. And now what we want to do is we want to click on object, and we want to convert this text into a mesh. So go to convert and then select mesh, and then press tab to go to edit mode, and press A to select everything, and press M to merge and select by distance. This will remove any double vertices. Go back to object mode, and we have our text. Press M and move it to the Rubik's Cube collection. Select the stand and press M and also move it to the Rubik's Cube collection. Double click here in the outliner and name this plain stand. And now it's time we edit this stand and make it more realistic, because if you look at the edges here, the edges are knife sharp, they're razor sharp, and this is not realistic. This is not how edges look like in real life. So let's go ahead and fix this problem. Select your stand, and then you press on / on the numpad to isolate, and then go to edit mode. Make sure you're on face select mode, and then click on this arrow and click on face orientation, and in most cases you're going to see that you have some red faces over here, and this red color means that the orientation of the faces is not correct, and this will make it this is actually problematic in the next step. If you don't do this right now, you will not be able to continue to the next step. So press A to select everything while you're on face select mode, and then press Shift N on your keyboard, and now everything is nice and blue. Click on this arrow and disable the face orientation, and then go to edge select mode, and then deselect everything, and now we're going to select this edge, and this edge, and then we're gonna hold down Shift and also select this edge, and this edge. Okay, what we want to do next after selecting these edges is we want to do something similar to the bevel modifier, but only on those selected edges. To do this, we press Ctrl B, and then you just slide outwards. Oops, not that much, just slightly like this, and then you can use your scroll wheel to create some segments. Maybe you can use it like so, and then you can left click once you're satisfied. If you didn't do the previous step that I told you about this face orientation thing, this step would fail. It will not work as intended, okay? That's why it's very important that you do this. Once you're done with that, all we want to do now is we want to hold down Alt and click on this thing, then press Shift Alt, and then select this, and select this. And then what we want to do is we want to do the same thing. We want to press Ctrl B and then slide away from the 3D cursor slightly while holding down Shift until we get something satisfactory like so. And then we can just left click, and let's go back to object mode and then right click and click on Shade Smooth, and we have some nice smooth edges that are actually realistic and not weird as they appeared earlier. Okay, press / on your numpad to de-isolate, and now it's time we add some material to the stand and the text. Before we do that, I like to parent this cube control mesh and this text to the stand so that when we move the stand, everything moves with the stand. Select the cube control, and then hold down Shift and select the text, and then keep holding down Shift and then select this stand. And it's very important that the stand is the last thing you select, because the last thing you select is what the other things will be parented to. Press Ctrl P and select the second option, and now if you move the stand, everything is going to move with the stand, as you can see. Very cool. Now let's select the text and let's add a material to this text. Click on New to add a new material. Let's go to the material preview so that we can see what we're doing. What we're going to do is we're going to set the metallic to 1, the metallic value, and then we're going to set the roughness to 0.3. And then we're going to set its color to full white, absolute white. And now we have some nice metallic text. We're going to click here on this stand and we're going to add in a new material. Actually, let's go back to the text and let me name this material text. Go back to the stand and then rename this material as stand. And then set the color to, go to the HSV and set the value to 0.08. No, actually 0.008. And that's a nice looking black color, and set the roughness to 0.3 as well, and we have our nice stand and its material. Perfect. Okay, let's go back to solid view and let's click on object, show hide, and then show hidden objects. And now if we go to the material preview, we have our nice looking mesh. This nice looking cube is standing on this Rubik's Cube stand, and it looks awesome in my opinion. Okay, so what we're going to do, actually I can scale this down slightly maybe, and then I can just GXX, hold down Shift very slightly, and then GZ, move it upwards a little bit. Yeah, I think this looks better. Now what we want to do is we want to set up the table and the wall that we want to set up. So press Shift A and then add this table, and then press RZ60 and then hit enter. And then, excuse me if you heard this sound, then what we want to do is we want to press Shift D, R, and then double tap X, or double tap Y instead. Sorry about that, double tap Y, and then we want to type 90 and then hit enter. And then I'm going to use the snapping. I'm going to press GB, and then I'm going to, yeah, I want to aim here and then click when I see this triangle, and then I'm going to move until I see the square, and then I'm going to move this on the Z-axis slightly to about this point. And now it's time we use the Blender Polygon add-on. So if you've already downloaded this add-on, click on Edit and go to Preferences and navigate to the Add-ons tab. Then click on this arrow and select Install from Disk. And then navigate to your zip folder for the add-on and then click Install from Disk. And then you should see this Polygon add-on with this checkbox. Make sure it's checked. Then close here and then you can press N and you're going to see a Polygon tab. Once you open this tab, you're going to see it's going to ask you to log in or sign up. Go ahead and do that. It's going to open the browser for you to log in and sign up. Make sure to do that, and once you're done with that, you're going to see something that looks like this. All you want to do is click on Assets and then click Textures and then click on All Textures and then select the free textures. Then click on page 6 and then click on page 5 and then scroll here until you see the ash wood. Select this bottom plane and then download the ash wood, and once you download it, click on Apply 2K. And it's going to apply this wood texture. If it's vertical like this, rotate this plane by 90 degrees by pressing RZ90, and now it's horizontal and nice. What we want to do next is we want to click on this wall and then we want to navigate to page 1 and then download this marble texture, and then once it's downloaded, click on Apply 2K. And here we go, we have the wall as well. I'm going to select this table and then I'm going to name it Table, and I'm going to select this plane and I'm going to name it Wall, like this. And then make sure that they're both in the environment collection if they're not already, so make sure to do this. And now it's time we add some accessory objects to the scene. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to also use the Polygon add-on to add these artifacts. So let's go ahead and do that. What we want to do is we want to press Shift A and let's we're going to use the Polygon add-on. So go here and click on Textures and then go to Models and then click on All Models and then go to Free and then scroll down here until you see this lantern. Click on the Free button, and once it's downloaded, click on Import 2K. Alright, once it's imported, go to the outliner and go for this wall lantern empty and then click on it once. And then what we want to do is we want to press RZ60 and then hit enter, and then maybe RZ90 and then hit enter. And then what we want to do is we want to go press 7 to go to the top view. And then we're going to press G and then double tap Y and then move this until it reaches the edge of this plane. So let's go ahead and do that. Double tap Y until it's about right there. Double tap Y whenever you're moving it until it reaches the edge over here. And once it reaches the edge, go to the camera view. Actually, let me adjust I want to adjust the view of this camera because it doesn't look nice, and then we're going to adjust this lantern and adjust its scale so that it's realistic. So let's go to the camera view, and then I'm going to click on the camera to select it, and I'm going to press G and then Z and then hold down Shift and slightly move the camera upwards, and then I'm going to press R and then double tap X and then slide upwards a little bit until I can see a part of the wall like this. And then what we want to do is let me just get out of the camera view. Interesting. What we want to do is press G and then double tap Z and then move the camera slightly backwards, and then press G and then Z once and slide it down a little bit like so. And now we have this cube over here looking pretty cool, and I think this is the view we want to see. Now I'm gonna do something. I mean, this is just a test, you don't have to do this. I'm testing something. I'm gonna press GZ.03 Alt R. Interesting. So I'm gonna undo. I'm gonna select the camera again, and I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis by pressing X twice, the local x-axis, and then I'm going to just slide down a little bit, and then grab on the z-axis and hold down shift and slide it upwards like so, and then I'm going to left click, and I'm going to try this test again. You don't have to do this again, I'm just doing it to test something. GZ.03 Alt R. Yeah, I think this is good enough. Let me just undo twice to undo this. Okay, it's time now to edit this lantern and make it look well in position. So I'm going to select this lantern empty and then go to the camera view, and then I'm going to grab this on the z-axis, and then I'm going to scale this down, not very much. Actually, I don't need to scale it down. I'm going to just move it and then press double tap X, and then just move it to over here. Maybe I can scale it down a bit, slightly. Then move it on the z-axis, and then press G double tap X, and move it a little bit like so. I think this looks good enough. What we want to add next is we want to add some plant and put it over here. So go to the polygon add-on and go to page 2, and you're going to find this plant over here. Click on the free button, and once it's downloaded, click on import 2K. Now Blender is lagging. Let's wait for it to add it. Alright, so now it's added. Press N to close this, and then click on this empty, and then we can scale this down a bit. Oops, I'm actually selecting the lantern. Let's select the plant banjo, this plant fig empty. Select this plant fig empty, and then scale this down to this size, and then press G Shift Z and move this over here. Let's go to the camera view. That's too big. Let's scale it down a bit more. G Shift Z, move it slightly outwards, and then we can scale it a bit more so that some of the leaves are visible like so. And I think this is good enough. Yeah, so this is basically the basic setup of this. This is the basic setup of the scene. All we want to do now is we want to let me check something. Actually, these planes are a little bit too big, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to set this to 1 meter in the X and Y axis. 1 meter, and the same goes here. 1 meter. I think this will look more realistic. Yeah, it's going to look more realistic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the wireframe mode, and then I'm going to select these things, and then I'm going to hide them. Oops, let me undo. I want to deselect this plane, and then I want to hide these things, and then we want to snap this plane into here. So I'm going to press GB. Oops, let me select this plane first, and then I'm going to press GB, and then click here, and then click here, and now we snapped it back to its position. Yeah, this looks much better than before. Okay, let's go back to the solid view, and let's click on object. Let's go to the material preview. Let's click on object, show, hide, and show hidden objects, and now these things are over here. I'm going to click on this one and then press G double tap Y and move it until it's, it just comes out again. G double tap X, move it here, G double tap Y until it's roughly touching the edge of this plane. Okay, let's go to the camera view. That's a little too big. Let's scale this down a bit more. Then press GZ G, double tap X. Okay, this looks good enough. This looks good enough. And we're going to go back here and then click on this empty, and then we're going to press G, Y, Y, or just Shift Z to move it over here. I'm going to go to the camera view and scale this a little bit down, and then I'm going to press G, Shift Z, and move it slightly over here, a little bit backwards, and that should be good enough. And this is the basic setup for our scene. Yeah, I was also feeling something was off. The plane was too big, the table was just too big. 2 meters by 2 meters is just so big and unrealistic, but this one looks much more realistic and beautiful. Alright guys, so this is the basic setup. It's time we set up some lighting to the scene. So, go to the HDRI link that's in the description, and then download the EXR file, and then once you do that, make sure you are on the material preview, and then click on this arrow, and then click on the settings icon, and then click on install, and navigate to your EXR file and install it. Navigate to the file and install the light, and once you do that, close this window and click on this arrow again, and click on this picture, and then select the one you installed. It's this Kaylee interior one. Click on this one and set the blur to 0 and the world opacity to 1. And now it's providing you lighting from this HDRI. We want the same thing to be applied to the rendered previews, so what we want to do is first go to the render settings and set the render engine to cycles, and then go to the world options and then click on this yellow button next to color, and then add an environment texture, and then click on open, and then navigate once again to this EXR HDRI that you downloaded, this Kaylee interior, and then click on open image. And now we're ready to start looking at how the lighting looks like. What I'd like to do is I'd like to select everything in the scene, and then I'd like to come over here in the outliner, and then I'm going to hold down Control and deselect the cube control, and then I'm going to click on this arrow, and then I'm going to hold down Control again and then click on the cube twice to deselect it, and then I'm going to hold down Control and then click on the text 2 times to deselect it. And now, yeah, this is where we're going to start rotating the entire scene until we get a realistic lighting. Click on this transform pivot point and set it to 3D cursor, and now we can press RZ and rotate the entire scene until we get some realistic lighting. I'm going to press 0 to go to the camera view, and then I'm going to press RZ and rotate it counterclockwise until I get my desired lighting. Okay, something like this should be good enough, I think, until the light is kind of shining on the upper half of the red face. I think this is good enough. What we want to do next is we want to go to the rendered preview to check how the lighting is looking. So let's go ahead and do that. Wait until the sample count goes up. Because now it's low. I'm going to wait until the sample count goes up slightly. Okay. So this is on it. Black table is so, I mean, it is stronger table. I want the table to be more brownish. Yeah, I mean, light is too much. We need to make it a bit darker than this. I'm gonna go back to the solid view, maybe, and then I'm gonna undo to select everything again. Let me go to wireframe. I want to make sure that, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go to the material preview, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rotate on the z-axis again a bit further to something like this, maybe. Maybe that's good enough. I don't know, but I think it's probably good enough. See how this looks like. Interesting. It looks a little browny. The light is not well face I want it to be, so I'm going to go back to the material preview. By the way, all what I'm doing right now is subjective. You don't have to do any of what I'm doing. I'm just doing it because, yeah, that's what I prefer. That's what I prefer. So, yeah, I will set it to about this point. Maybe that's the perfect lighting setting. Let's check it out here. I'm going to deselect everything and go to the camera view, and let's see how this looks like. Interesting. Interesting looking. Table look a little bit more brown. So how can I do this? You can leave it like that if you want to. I'm going to be back when the number of samples over here goes up enough, because slow everything is so grainy and it's hard to see anything, so I'd like to wait until it goes up enough. So let's go ahead and wait for this. I'll be right back. Alright, so we are back. We make sure that the voice is not yeah, it's recording. Oh yeah, the light cube is, but I'm not able to get ground on the table. You can by the cost. I'm without the costs. Yeah, sure what is happening anyway. That's the problem. If you look, is a let coming is a solution out, kind of making cube look weird. Also weird problem here. It's it's go to the material preview, and what I would like to do is I would like to click on this thing and go to press tab and then click here and enable face orientation. Make sure everything is blue. Okay, let's disable face orientation. And then what I would like to do is I want to press tab, and then I'm going to go to the object data over here, and then where was this thing? Yeah, go to the visibility area, and then disable the glossy ray. Okay, this will fix this shiny thing over here. This problem will be fixed. I'm not sure if the other one will be fixed as well, so let's give this a shot. Over here, let's see if this will be fixed. I think it's fixed. It's no longer giving this weird shiny light on the cube. But for some reason there's this weird black dot over here that I don't understand where it came from. Okay, there's something I'm gonna test something. You don't have to do this. I'll just test it. I want to see if it's just a matter of shadow or if there's an actual problem. So let me add quickly a light. I think I know the problem here. Why the table is not looking brown enough, and that's because the light is actually shining on the table. Click on this light and then click on delete. Delete this light, and let's try again to check the rendered preview and see how this looks like. Yeah, this looks really beautiful right now. Yeah, it looks super beautiful at the moment. Yeah, I think everything is fixed right now. The reason the table was not looking brown and nice and shiny because there was this light that we hit at the beginning of our video. We just hit this light and it was actually affecting the table. Now the light is hidden, the table is actually looking brilliant and brownish and awesome. And I think this shadow thing will disappear as the samples count goes up. Yeah, I think it will disappear. Alright, so I think this is all about the scene. What's left now is to actually animate the cube. So let's go back to solid mode. Let me go to the top view and let me make sure that this plant is not actually going through the wall, which it actually is. So I'm going to click on this empty, and then I'm going to press G Shift Z and move this just slightly inside so that it's not going through the wall. Yeah, this is much better. Okay, so I'm going to click here and press numpad period, and what we want to do now is we want to select the cube control and then click on this arrow over here and then hold down control and select the cube. And then what you want to do is you want to press Shift H to hide everything other than the cube and this cube control. Let's go to let's go to the material preview, and yeah, what I want to do is I want to click on this cube and then I want to press actually we'll do this step a little bit later. Let's actually click on object and show hide and show hidden objects. There's something we need to do now first before doing this next step, and that's we need to go to the camera view, and then we need to press GZ 0.03 and then enter, and then Alt R to reset the rotation of the cube. And now we can just oops, what is going on here? Yeah, now let's click on this cube and then press Shift H to hide everything other than the cube. And now what we want to do, actually let's unhide the cube control from the outliner and select the cube control, go to the top view, and then we want to rotate this cube control on the Z-axis until it's I'm holding down control while rotating so that the rotation is perfect and exact, and then I'm going to left click. Let me actually rotate it on the Z-axis by -90. Yeah. Alright, now when you press 1, you're facing the blue face. This is exactly what we want. And now it's time we begin animating this cube. So I'm going to click and open this timeline, okay? And then what we want to do before animating the cube is we want to click on this cube and then press N and then set the rotation to quaternion. This is very important for the next step. Now press Tab to go to edit mode, press A to select everything, and then press P and then select by loose parts. What this will do is it will separate each of these individual cubes as separate objects. This will allow us to select a whole layer and then rotate it alone, and this will allow us to not have to rotate the whole cube. Now the reason I added this cube control thing earlier is because still, even now, we can still rotate the whole cube and it's not going to affect the rotation of the layers, because the layers have their own separate rotation data that's not affected by this cube control rotation. So if I rotate this cube like this by the cube control, and then I click on one of these cubes and then go here, as you can see, the rotation on the X, Y, and Z is actually 0. So all this data is only stored on the cube control and not on the individual cubes. This is important to prevent any conflict in the animation. Let me undo. This was just a test. Now before we begin, click on this pivot point and set it to median point. And then hide the cube control for now, we don't need it. And we want to go to the website that I mentioned earlier for the cube scrambles. So let's go ahead and go to this website quickly. Let me go to the website of cube scrambles, this website. It will be in the description. Set the scrambles to 1 and set the length to 10 or whatever you want. Usually I like to set it to 10, but you can set it anything you want, and click on scramble and you're going to get this scramble over here. Or you can do your own scramble, that's up to you, but I like to make it randomized. This is totally optional, but I like to make it randomized. So what we want to do now is we want to press 1 to go to the front view, and this will be our reference position, okay? 1 on the numpad, front view, blue face on front. Blue face will be our reference position when we are scrambling this cube. What we want to do is we want to enable the X-ray, and after enabling the X-ray, we're gonna go to the scramble and we're gonna read the first letter. It says D2. This means we need to rotate the down layer by 180 degrees. Each turn is 90 degrees, so two turns are 180 degrees. Go to frame 100 on the timeline, and then press 1 on the numpad, and then click and drag to select this entire layer. And then what you want to do is you want to click here to enable the auto keying. This will make a keyframe or a recording for the transform data of these objects whenever we change this transform data. What you want to do is you want to press K and add a rotation keyframe and then skip by 40 frames and then rotate this on the Z-axis by 180 degrees. Alright, it's going to add automatically a keyframe here. Once again, we need to face the blue center. The blue center is our reference position. The blue center is the reference position. Okay, so then we need to go to the next move. It says R apostrophe or R prime. This means we need to rotate the right layer by 90 degrees counterclockwise. So go press 1 to go to the front view, select the right layer, and then skip by 10 frames, and then press K and add a rotation keyframe. And then this time we're going to skip by 20 frames, since this is just a single 90-degree turn, and we're going to rotate this on the x-axis and hold down Control until we rotate it by 90 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, and here we go, it has been added. Let's go press 1 to face this blue center, and let's go to the next move. It says U apostrophe, which means the up face or the up layer 90 degrees counterclockwise. we're going to click and drag to select the up layer, and then skip by 10 frames, and then press K and add a rotation keyframe, and skip by 20 frames since this is a single turn, and then press R, Z and hold down Control and rotate it by 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then left click, and we're gonna go to the next one and do the same thing. This says D apostrophe, which means down face 90 degrees counterclockwise, so go ahead and select this. Make sure to skip 10 frames first and then press K, rotation keyframe, and then what we want to do is we want to skip 20 frames to frame 230, and then we're going to rotate this on the z-axis by 90 degrees counterclockwise, RZ, hold down Control, and just rotate it to this point, and then left click, and then what we want to do next is just go on with this scramble. Let me set the end here to 400. Let me select everything to make sure everything looks good enough. Yeah. I'm going to skip 10 frames, and then we're going to go to the next move. Let me just make sure of something. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to frame 240. And we're going to go to the next move, and the next move is R prime, so let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to start to speed up now since you know the drill. Rotation, and then we're going to skip by 20 frames, so we're going to go to 260, then RX, then skip by 10 frames, go to the next one, L2. So what we're going to do, back to facing the blue center, select the left face, left layer, K rotation. Alright. And then we're going to skip by 40 frames to frame 310. And then RX 180. And then once again, go back to facing the blue center. Skip by 10 frames, select this one, K rotation. It says U2, huh? Okay, U2, which means we're going to skip by 40 frames again to 360, and then RZ 180, enter, skip 10 frames, and we're going to do the same thing again, L. Over here, this is L, which means the left face 90 degrees clockwise. So we're going to click and drag to select the left face, and then press K rotation, and this time we're going to move by 20 frames only since it's a single turn, and we're going to press RX and rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. Let me increase the end to 600 to have some space. Let's skip 10 frames, go back to the front view facing the blue face, the blue center, and then we need to make a B turn, which means the back face 90 degrees clockwise. So we need to select the back layer. So to do this, we need to look at this layer from the top. So I'm going to go to the top view, and we're going to select this back layer, and then I'm going to add a rotation keyframe by pressing K and then selecting rotation. And then we're going to skip by 20 frames, and this could be tricky, so you want to face the back face and then press RY and just rotate it by 90 degrees clockwise and left click. And finally it says D2, so let's go ahead and do this quickly. I'm going to press 1 to face the blue center, and then I'm going to skip by 10 frames. And then I'm going to select the down face, press K, add a rotation keyframe, and this one says D2, which means 2 turns or 180 degrees, so I'm going to skip by 40 frames to frame 470, and then we're going to rotate it on the Z-axis by 180 degrees, And now the cube rotation is complete. Let's go back to frame 1 and let's see what happens. The cube is solving itself, as you can see. There is actually a problem here, guys. Let's go back. Take a look at this. The color is still inside for some reason. Although we fixed this problem, it seems it has not been fixed in some of the cases. So yeah, we need to fix this problem. In some of the cases, the colors are still visible inside. Anyway, let's press spacebar to continue the animation to make sure that the animation is moving smoothly. Alright, by the way, if you want to go back to frame 1, just hold down shift and left arrow to go back to frame 1. Now, there is a problem, as you've seen, there are still some colors in between, so we need to fix this problem. What we want to do is we're going to press A to select all the cubes, and then press tab to go to edit mode for all of these cubes together. Your computer may lag a little bit, but you need to be patient. Please do not crash. I have not saved my Blender file yet. Please do not crash. Please do not crash. Wait a second. Blender did not actually feel that I pressed tab. Okay, the reason for this, when this happens, you want to just hold down shift and then click once on one of these cubes so that one of them is highlighted in light orange or yellow and the rest are highlighted in dark orange or red. And now press tab to go to edit mode for all of these faces together and disable the X-ray mode. And then we're going to do a similar thing as what we've done before. What we're going to do is we're going to press L and then select material, and we're going to select once again all of these tiles over here. Okay. Oops, what is going on here? Why is this thing doing this? Interesting. For some reason this is not behaving properly. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to undo. I don't know why the cube is behaving weirdly today, but that's okay. We can fix this problem. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the right side view, and I'm going to enable the face select mode, and then I'm going to press B for box select, and I'm going to select these faces, and then I'm going to zoom in. We're going to do a similar thing, a similar thing. Oops. Let me actually. Interesting. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to solid mode, and then I'm going to hold down Alt, and then click on this monitor icon to disable the subdivision surface modifier for all of the cubes. And then let me go back here, and let's actually. That's very annoying. You know that. Interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect everything, go to the right side, and I'm going to start from the right side. So I'm going to select this. There's a trick I would like to try. Okay, never mind. Let me just do this quickly. Over here. For some reason it's kind of... God, this is very nasty, guys. Okay, I have a solution. Let's go back to object mode. I'm going to select this cube, and then I'm going to press / to isolate the cube, and then I'm going to go back to edit mode, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try again. Maybe this time it's going to work as we want it to be, as we want it to work. Nope. There's that other edge loop that we want to select. It's not. That's really nasty, you know that? Man, that is nasty. Alright, I think now we selected. Oh, never mind. Never mind. I'm going to go here. Why is this cube behaving in this way? Why is it behaving in this way? Okay. I don't really understand what's wrong with this cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on each of these cubes and I'm going to isolate them, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. One cube by one cube, we're going to isolate them to make sure that there are no weird colors in between. So let's, yeah. Okay, there's a weird white color here, so we need to get rid of this white color. So let's go ahead and do that. Go to edit mode, and we need to remove the white color from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the material area and then go here, select. It's going to select this white color, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the cube and then click on assign. Okay, and now we're going to just go back to unisolating it, and now, yeah, this is fixed. What we're going to do next is we're going to go here and we're going to isolate, and again there's the same problem. So once again I'm going to go to edit mode, select, assign. Okay, so basically I click on the white and then click on select and then go back to cube and then click on it and click on assign. Object mode and isolate. Same goes here. I think the same problem will appear. Yeah, all the faces seem to have some weird white color underneath, so I'm going to click on the white material, click on select, and then go back to cube and then click on assign. Alright, perfect. Let's do this here. Alright, so all of them are like that, it seems. Okay, very nice. So I'm going to go for the white straight ahead. I know that all of them have this weird white color for some reason. So what we're going to do is go to edit mode, white, select, cube, assign, and then tab on isolate. Same goes here. Gonna go to edit mode. Yeah, basically we don't need to isolate anymore. We're just gonna go to edit mode and do this same stuff. So white, select, cube, assign, tab. Here, edit mode, white, select, cube, assign. I'm going to be right back when I finish all of them, guys, because this is just a waste of time to keep doing this in front of you. I'll do one more and then I'm going to pause and be right back. So you select one of these cubes, you go to edit mode on the cube, you go to the white material, click on select, and then go to the black material and then click on assign. The reason I'm going for the white in particular is because I checked it for one of the cubes first, and I discovered that the problem was in the white color. There was a weird white color below. Your case may be different, so you don't need to copy me exactly, but you get the point. Alright guys, so I will be right back when I finish this thing. So stay with me. Alright guys, so I fixed all the problems. Let's go back to the modifier area and select all the cubes, and then shift and select click on one of them once, so that one of them is not highlighted in red but rather highlighted in light orange, and then hold down your alt key and then click on this monitor tab to re-enable the subdivision surface modifier for all of these cubes. Now let's go back to frame 1 and let's re-enable let's re-enable the animation to see how the cube is being solved. Here we go. No white stickers whatsoever. Yeah, good, good. Please don't show me any kind of white stickers inside. Okay, so the white stickers are only outside, and that's what we want. We do not have any white stickers inside. Okay. So, by the way, when we used to select one of these cubes and go to edit mode, and then we came here and then clicked on white and then clicked on select. Before clicking on select, make sure to deselect everything by clicking away, just in the empty area, and then click select. Okay? Because if you don't do that, problems may happen. You may end up selecting not only the white material but something else, and then you may end up ruining your entire cube. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so let's go back to object mode, and yeah, this is the animation of the cube. But the problem about this animation is that the cube is actually scrambling itself. So how can we make it solve itself? Okay, we don't want the cube to scramble itself, but rather we want it to solve itself. So hover over here and select all the cubes, and then make sure that you're on frame 1 on the timeline. And before we continue, I want to save my Blender file because I've never saved it yet. So I'm going to save it just in case something happens. Alright, so once you select all your cubes, make sure that you're on frame 1, press shift and then left arrow, and then press go to the timeline, hover over there, and then press S, and then type -1, and then press G on your keyboard and keep sliding to the right until you see the keyframes appearing once again. Keep sliding until the leftmost keyframe is placed on frame 100. Now we've went beyond frame 100, so we're gonna slide here and then press G and then keep sliding back to the left until we are on frame 100, and then we're going to left click. Now if we go back to frame 1 and play, let's see how things play around. As you can see, the cube is actually solving itself. Now this weird you know, the colors seem jagged, and that's okay. I mean, this is the material preview, it's not the actual render, but as you can see, the cube is actually solving itself. That is brilliant. Okay, this is exactly what we want. Now close the auto keying and go to click on object and show hide and show hidden objects. Blender is not responding. Okay, so Blender is back. Okay, let's go to this camera view and let's select cube control. And what we want to do is we want to go to the rotation and once again set the rotation that we want. Set the X to -45, the Y, make sure you're selecting cube control, and the Y -35.264, and the Z we want to set it to 0. And here we go, we're once again in this state. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press GZ -0.03, and the cube is back here. Now we need to animate the cube itself as a whole. We want to make it hover up in the air and then adjust its position. So to do this, go to frame 30 and press K and add a location and rotation keyframe for the cube control. Then go to frame 60 and then press GZ and then type 0.03, hit enter, and then press K and add a location and rotation keyframe, and then go to frame 90 and then press Alt R, and then once again press K and add a location and rotation keyframe. Now if we press shift and left arrow and play the animation, let me deselect the cube control, deselect, let's play the animation and see how it plays out. Here we go, the cube is rising up, adjusting itself, and it's starting to solve itself. Now the cube could be very slow, and that's not the real speed. My Blender is actually slow because my computer RAM is dying, but that's okay. Okay, it's not going to be like that in the final render, so don't worry about this. But yeah, you get the point. The cube is rising up and solving itself. Voila. But there is still one thing we need to do. We need to make the cube go back to the stand after solving itself. So select cube control again, go to frame 470 because that's the final frame. If you move with your left arrow once, as you can see, the cube was still rotating its final layer, and it's finished exactly at frame 470. Scroll over here until you see this, skip by 10 frames, and then press K and add a location and rotation keyframe, and then skip by 30 frames to frame 510, and then press N to open the properties panel, and then adjust the rotation, make it -45, and the Y make it -35.264. And once you do this, press K and add a location and rotation keyframe, and then move by another 40 frames, another 30 frames up to this point. And then what we want to do is press G, Z, -0.03, hit enter, and then press K and add a location and rotation keyframe, and here we go. I'm going to go to the solid view to speed up my PC a little bit because it's so slow, and then I'm going to go to the output area and set this to 30 FPS. And now I'm going to press shift and left arrow. Actually, let me select everything. Okay, I'm going to set the end here to 540. And then let's go ahead and press shift and left arrow and play this animation. As you can see, the cube is solving itself. We're not seeing the colors because I'm not in the material preview, but you get the point. And after solving itself, it just places itself back in there, and that's brilliant. There is one last thing we need to do, and that is we need to add some focus to the camera so that the cube is in focus and whatever is behind the cube is slightly blurred. To do this, press Shift A. First make sure to click on the environment collection so that whatever you add is added to the environment collection. Press Shift A and add an empty plain axes, and you can scale these down a little bit, maybe to something like this. And then maybe we can go to the camera view, go to the wireframe mode, press GZ and just move this to something like this, G, X, or I don't know, maybe we can just say G, Shift Z and just move it slightly like this. Okay, let's go back to solid view and let's go to the top view, and what we want to do is we want to press G, Shift Z, and then just move this over here to about over here, and that should be good enough. Not quite perfect. Once again, I'm going to go to the camera view and press G, Z and hold down Shift and move this to over here roughly, and that's what we want. I'm going to double click on this empty and I'm going to name it camera focus. And then what I want to do now is I want to click on the camera, go to the camera settings, and then over here you're going to find this depth of field thing. Enable the depth of field and then click on this arrow and then click on this icon, and then over here select the camera focus and then set the f-stop to 17. The higher the value of the f-stop, the less blurry the behind image is going to be. A value of 2 is so low, like even parts of the cube itself are going to be so blurry, only this cube is going to be in focus. That's too much. I experimented with multiple values and the value I found to be my favorite is 17. So I'm gonna go ahead and oops, my charger has fell on the ground, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 17 because this is my favorite setting. Okay, but there is still another problem. while animating the cube is going to move up, but this thing is not going to move up with the cube. So we need to fix this quickly. So let's go ahead and click on cube control, and we want to position our cursor over here right in between those two keyframes here in frame 45, and then we need to select the camera focus from the outliner or from over here, it's up to you. And let's press K and add a location keyframe, and then go to frame 60 and then press GZ 0.03, hit enter, and then add another location keyframe. And then what we want to do is, once again, we need to select the cube control, and then we need to scroll all the way here, and right in between those two last keyframes we need to position our cursor, and then it should be at frame 525 in our case. And then we need to select the camera focus from the outliner and press K, location keyframe, and then go to the final frame and press GZ negative 0.03, hit enter, and then press K and add a location keyframe. And now if we just go to frame 1 and play our animation, this thing moves with the cube to kind of remain sort of in focus. Alright. And once the cube solves itself and gets down, this thing will also go down with the cube, as you can see here, and this is exactly what we want. Alright, so this is our animation. Let's take a look at how it looks like at the final frame in the rendered mode. So let's go ahead and do this. Now, these over here will not be visible in the actual final render. They're only visible in the render preview. Okay, so you don't have to worry about any of this affecting your animation again. It's only visible here. So we're going to wait for a while until the sample goes up enough, and then we will notice that the images here are going to be blurry, and the cube here is going to be in focus. Now I think you're starting to notice that already. The image is grainy, but yeah, as the grains become less frequent, you're going to notice that this is blurry and this is more in focus, and this is exactly what we want. Alright, so this is perfect. I think this is perfect. And now it's time to set up our final render settings and render this animation. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go back to frame 1. I like to make sure that I'm always in frame 1. And we're going to go to the render settings. And before we set the render settings, we need to go over here until we see this arrow over here, and then click and drag to open up this outliner and expand it further. And we need to select all of these cubes. So click and drag to make this box, and then select all these cubes. And then what you want to do is you want to hold down shift and then left click once on one of the cubes so that one of them is highlighted in light orange. And then what we want to do is once again hover over here until you see this arrow, and then click and drag upwards to expand this menu. We want to go to the modifier area, click on this arrow, and then hold down the Alt key and then click on apply, and this will apply the subdivision surface modifier for all of the cubes. This will slightly speed up your render because Blender will not have to calculate this modifier for each frame. It's already applied now, and that's pretty cool. As you can see, the vertices are much more frequent now, and yeah, we do not need to edit anything else in the cube, so it's time we apply this subdivision surface modifier. Alright, now it's time we set up our final settings. Let's save this Blender file. Let's go here, render engine cycle, feature set supported, device. If you have, you can click here on edit, go to preferences, go to system, and if you can find any compatible GPU over here, make sure to enable it, and then if it's available, you can come here and enable GPU compute. Alright, in my case I don't have, my computer is pathetic, so there's that. If you have problems with render, if your computer is pathetic like me, make sure to check out my tutorial on how to speed up your Blender renders significantly. The link will be in the description as well. So let's continue setting up these settings. Go to the render area and set the noise threshold. You can leave it at 0.01. It's the ideal. If if you want to speed up the render slightly, you can set it to 0.02. There will be some noise in the image at the end, but it's going to be slightly faster, so it's up to you. You can leave it 0.01 or 0.02, but don't go above this because it's going to start to look bad. And go over here and disable the denoise. We do not want any denoise, just disable this thing, because in our case it's going to make the fingerprint textures look so unrealistic. In some other scenes denoise could be helpful, but here it's not. And that's one of the reasons my previous project was not very realistic. It's because I used the denoise and it was not a good idea. Alright, go over here and click on motion blur to enable this, because while the cube is moving, there will be some slight blurring during the movement, and this is realistic. This is how cameras take videos. They appear this way in actual cameras. Okay. Go to the output settings. Make sure that the percentage here is 100%, and the resolution will be automatically set up depending on your monitor. Set the FPS to 30, and over here click here to set the output folder. This is where the final render is going to be. Choose whatever folder you want, and then over here you can set the file format. You can set it as a video, but I do not recommend this because if something happens during the render, you're gonna have to restart from the beginning. So I like to leave it as an image format. I like to use the TIFF format, and I set this to RGB, and I leave the color depth at 8. What this will do is that it's going to render an image sequence. Each frame will be rendered as a separate image, and then using the Blender video editor we can combine it into a single video. The advantage about this is that if a problem happens in the render, you're not going to start from the beginning, but rather you're going to start from where you stopped earlier. Alright, so I think this is all we need to do here. What we need to do now is click on render and then render animation, and then wait until the animation is rendered. Alright, once the animation is rendered, click on file and then new, and then go to video editing, and then press Ctrl T to make this video in the frame format, make this timeline in the frame format, and then press Shift A and add an image sequence and navigate to where your image sequence was rendered. Let me do this quickly. You're gonna find it where you decided to put it. Now the image sequence I'm using is the one I used in my own file, not the one we just made, because I'm not going to render this. It's going to take forever, and I'm not going to log into Google Colab right now. I'm too lazy to do that. I just want to show you the idea. So press A to select everything and add the image strip, and you're going to find a number over here. In this case it says 480. In your case it could say anything else. Just take this number and in your head add 90 to this number, or on a calculator or anything if you want. And then in this case it's going to be 570, so set the end to 570. Now if you click here and scroll, and let's go to somewhere near the end. Once the animation is over, the video stops abruptly, and this is not nice. We need to give the viewers some time to appreciate the scene after the animation is over. So scroll to the very end and then go here to the end of this strip, and then click and drag and extend it to 570. The reason we added 90 is because over here we're going to click on frame rate and set it to 30, and basically 90 frames equal 3 seconds. So this means we will leave this video on for 3 extra seconds after the animation is over. This is subjective. You can decrease the end a little bit. It's up to you. Once you're done with that, you see this end value. Just subtract 25 from it on your head or on a calculator, and then set your cursor to this number. In my case it's going to be 545, and then press Shift A and add a color, and then right click the color and go to fade and then fade in. And now once the animation is over, there's going to be, not once the animation is over, I mean it's going to stay for a while, and then at the end of the video this fade is going to happen, and this is much cooler and much interesting. So once you're done with that, all you have to do now is once again scroll down here, make sure that it's 30 FPS, and then set your destination folder again. This time it's going to be rendered as a single video, so set your destination folder and click accept. And then under encoding, Make sure to set this quality to perceptually lossless and set the audio to no audio, and you're ready to go. What you want to do now is click on render and then render animation. This time it's going to be very fast. Blender will pretty much just play your video again, and then the final video will be stored in your destination folder. It's going to quickly play the video. As you can see, the frames are running quickly, and that's it. I'm going to close this now since I no longer want to render. I've already rendered, and this is it, guys. This concludes this video. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, like the video, consider subscribing, and if you have any problems or suggestions, leave a comment please. And yeah,